Throughout human history, certain dictators, whose power seemed unshakable, cultivated an atmosphere of widespread terror around themselves, naively believing their rule would last forever. However, death is relentless, and their demises are typically shrouded in darkness and mystery, seemingly mirroring the very essence of their despotic regimes. In this article, we endeavor to shed light on the circumstances surrounding the deaths of notorious figures such as Hitler, Stalin, Mao Zedong, and Gaddafi. While the official accounts of their demises are recorded in historical documents, unspoken truths, intrigues, and secrets lie hidden behind each one, continuing to provoke fierce debate. The death of a dictator is never an ordinary event, as under an authoritarian regime, information is subjected to strict censorship, truth is suppressed, and propaganda shapes a narrative beneficial to those in power. This is precisely why, when a dictator dies, unanswered questions almost always remain. Was it a natural death, the result of a conspiracy within the highest echelons of power, or a tragic turn of events? Such endings invariably draw attention, much like a magnet. Uncertainty gives rise to numerous theories, ranging from the entirely plausible to the utterly fantastic. And generally, the greater a dictator's power, the more convoluted and mysterious the circumstances of their death tend to be. We now turn our attention to some of the most impactful historical episodes, where the demise of despots became a genuine enigma, echoing through the centuries and still awaiting a definitive resolution. Adolf Hitler, death in the bunker or a daring escape abroad? On the fateful day of April 30th, 1945, as Berlin trembled under the onslaught of the advancing Red Army, Adolf Hitler sheltered deep within his underground bunker. According to the official account, in their final moments, he and Eva Braun took their own lives within those gloomy walls, and their bodies were then cremated at his personal instruction. Nevertheless, seeds of doubt sprouted almost immediately. Soviet troops, who were the first to storm the bunker, maintained silence for many years, shrouding all circumstances in secrecy. The remains later presented to the world were, as it turned out, not Hitler's, but those of a significantly younger woman. This information vacuum spawned an endless stream of hypotheses, from theories of his escape to Argentina, to suggestions of a secret hideout in South America under the guise of another person, or even that he continued to exist in deep secrecy for far longer than generally believed. To this day, his fate remains a battleground where official accounts and speculation intertwine in an ongoing confrontation. Benito Mussolini, the dictator's end in the crosshairs of history. In April 1945, as the advance of Allied forces grew ever clearer, Benito Mussolini made a desperate attempt to escape war-torn Italy. However, his flight was short-lived. The Duce was apprehended with his mistress and directed north, but he was not destined to reach his final destination. According to the official account, his life ended at the hands of Italian partisans. Subsequently, his body was put on public display in Milan, where he was hung upside down before a jubilant crowd. Despite this, the circumstances of Mussolini's death are still shrouded in a veil of mystery and contradictions. Some historians suggest the existence of incriminating documents related to secret agreements between Mussolini and Churchill, which were carefully concealed after the regime's fall. Other researchers believe the dictator may have been a victim of betrayal by his inner circle, who sought to save their own lives at any cost. Regardless, Mussolini's tragic end clearly demonstrates how the collapse of an authoritarian regime can be accompanied by intrigues, betrayals, and unsolved mysteries that continue to intrigue historians to this day. Joseph Stalin, the mystery of the Kremlin master's death. In March 1953, the Soviet leader Joseph Stalin was found lifeless at his residence. The official account stated that the cause of death was a stroke, resulting from years of intense work and political pressure. However, almost immediately after the tragic news, doubts began to emerge regarding the veracity of the official version. The veil of secrecy over the leader's demise. It is well known that Stalin's inner circle, fearing his wrath, hesitated for several hours to disturb the dictator's rest. By the time guards and assistants finally entered his chambers, it was too late. The opportunity for effective medical intervention had been lost. Following this incident, rumors began to circulate, hinting that the cause of death might not have been solely illness. Some political adversaries, including those who subsequently rose to high office, may have been interested in hastening the ruler's demise. The impenetrability of the Kremlin walls and the lack of a clear medical report spawned decades of conjecture and speculation. Stalin's death was not merely the end of an entire era in Soviet history, but also a clear demonstration of how difficult it is to establish the truth when historical events unfold in the shadow of an autocratic regime. Francisco Franco, agony under control. In November 1975, Francisco Franco, under close medical supervision, was living out his final days, suffering from a prolonged illness. According to the official account, the cause of death was progressive heart failure. However, what is remarkable is not so much the diagnosis itself, but rather how meticulously the regime controlled the flow of information concerning the dictator's health. Francisco Franco, demise under a cloak of state secrecy. In the final weeks of General Francisco Franco's rule over Spain, every official communication regarding his health was subjected to strict censorship. Historians suggest that the dictator's prolonged treatment might have been a tactical move aimed at ensuring a smooth transfer of power. Such control over information gave rise to legitimate doubts about the accuracy of medical reports and the extent of data manipulation used to maintain Franco's image right up until his demise. Franco's passing demonstrated the regime's desire to control not only the country's present life, but also the historical narrative of its own end. Mao Zedong, a leader shrouded in secrecy. In September 1976, Mao Zedong, the unwavering leader of the People's Republic of China, was on the brink of death after a prolonged illness. The official account stated that the cause of his demise was a heart attack, which occurred at his Zongnanhai residence in Beijing. However, this event became riddled with numerous rumors and conjectures. It is known that a fierce power struggle was underway within the highest echelons of the Communist Party, and for some, the timing of Mao Zedong's death was not a mere coincidence. There were hints of internal pressure aimed at hastening the inevitable outcome, although no evidence for this was ever presented. The secrecy characteristic of the Chinese regime meant that the public received only carefully selected fragments of information. Such control over information transformed Mao Zedong into an even more complex and contradictory figure, where the line between the real person and the political myth became blurred. The mysterious demise of Muammar Gaddafi, a dictator in the chaos of the crowd. In October 2011, after 4 decades of autocratic rule, Muammar Gaddafi, the Libyan leader, was captured in his country, which was engulfed in the flames of civil war. The official account states that he was intercepted while attempting to flee the city of Sirte, and it was there that his life ended. However, the chronicle of those tragic events is riddled with inconsistencies and gaps. Footage that circulated global media captured chaos, violence, and the involvement of numerous parties, but it never formed a coherent and convincing picture of what transpired. Almost immediately, conspiracy theories emerged. From secret operations by foreign intelligence agencies to the disappearance of important documents and vast personal fortunes that could not be found. Gaddafi's death became a symbol of how the fall of an authoritarian leader can turn into a convoluted story, where official statements and hidden motives intertwine, leaving no room for definitive answers. Kim Jong-il, a leader behind a veil of secrecy. In December 2011, North Korea announced the demise of its leader, Kim Jong-il, during a train journey. The official cause was stated as a heart attack, but the impenetrable veil of secrecy surrounding the North Korean regime gave rise to more questions than answers. The veil of mystery surrounding Kim Jong-il's demise. News of Kim Jong-il's death was announced with a noticeable delay, which immediately sparked a wave of speculation. It was not entirely clear when exactly the North Korean leader's life ended, on the stated date or several days earlier. The situation was exacerbated by the almost complete absence of eyewitnesses and strict state control over all information. Under such conditions, the lack of transparency inevitably led to various theories emerging. Some observers suggested that death occurred under different circumstances, and that the ruling regime deliberately delayed the announcement to ensure a smooth transition of power to his son, Kim Jong-un. The story of Kim Jong-il's demise clearly demonstrates that even the final chapters of a dictator's life in the most closed political systems can be transformed into a cleverly constructed narrative, where political considerations take precedence over truth. The trial of Saddam Hussein and the shadow of doubt. In 2003, following the invasion of Iraq, Saddam Hussein was captured and stood trial on charges of crimes against humanity. 3 years later, in 2006, the death sentence handed down to him was carried out through public execution. Footage of this event, captured on video and leaked online, instantly circulated worldwide, sparking a storm of debate and rumor. Instead of bringing clarity, Saddam Hussein's execution only added fuel to the fire of discussion. The end of dictators' reigns is often shrouded in a mist of enigmas and contradictions, leaving behind more questions than answers. Saddam Hussein's fate serves as a prime example of this phenomenon. Despite the official overthrow and trial, many doubt the authenticity of what transpired. Some spoke of a body double, while others pointed to political motives, due to which the truth was never fully revealed. Saddam's downfall became an illustration of how the overthrow of a dictator can be obscured by the doubts and uncertainties of millions of people who are still searching for answers about what truly happened. After analyzing the downfall of dictators, it becomes clear that absolute power guarantees neither a transparent nor a dignified end. Among the most mysterious ends to their rule, 3 cases stand out. In third place on this list is Joseph Stalin, whose death sparked suspicions of a conspiracy within the highest echelons of the Kremlin. Adolf Hitler ranks second, as the official version of his demise failed to fully convince the public, giving rise to numerous theories about his escape. And in first place is Muammar Gaddafi, whose death, captured on video, rather complicates than clarifies the situation, leaving behind undiscovered treasures, vanished documents, and a multitude of unanswered questions. This ranking serves as a reminder that even the most formidable leaders in history prove to be vulnerable, just like any individual, and their stories are replete with mysteries and ambiguities. Dictators who ruled the world with an iron fist in various eras were ultimately unable to maintain control over their own destiny. Each left behind a veil of mystery that continues to fuel debates, doubts, and various theories to this day.